All right, so the world is a play. The play's the thing, and what are some of the roles we could have? You could have lover, builder on one side, and you could have hater and destroyer on another side. So a lover, someone who loves something, is someone who wants to encompass it and take care of it. You love your children, they grow and they thrive. So you love things that you make thrive, even if you may not feel a pounding in your heart. Something that you go out and water every day, some children that you give food to every day. You love these things. Um, you're a hater if you're pushing it away. You're a destroyer if you're like, fuck it, I don't even want this thing, I'm going to blow it up, right? Um, yeah, let's talk about this. Okay, so, you know, where do the accolades go? Do they go for building or destroying? You know, we love destroyers, we love builders, right? Um, we're praised for being brilliantly destroying um, because everyone knows that everything is bullshit. That's why I loved Bernie Sanders. Not because he's a socialist. I fucking hate socialism, right? I live in Berkeley. I know socialism directly, um, and I hate socialism. Yeah, when you get into corporate capitalism, there's some problems at the top, and antitrust laws should probably apply to these assholes. Um, it's still better than socialism. I live in socialism. I live in Berkeley, and Berkeley wants nothing more to be than like the social disasters of history, the Cubas, the Soviet Unions, and the communist China. Like that's what socialists actually want. So, but that's not why I love Bernie Sanders. I love Bernie Sanders because he was a destroyer of worlds. That's why I love Donald Trump. He is potentially a destroyer of worlds. It looks like he's getting taken over by the military-industrial complex and the globalists. So whatever. I was hoping that he was going to be a builder and and a destroyer of federal overreach. We'll wait for another 8 years because he's going to get the vote in 4 years because he's kicking ass more than any Democrat in 50 years has. So that's another thing. But we love. Just my point is, we love brilliant destroyers. If you can come out and say fuck the man, and I have a plan that will actually help us not just totally blow up the entire world, then come along with me. If you can actually do that and get people behind you, then you are a brilliant destroyer. Because everyone knows all is bullshit. Right? The only people who don't believe all is bullshit are the people who believe in a reality other than what's happening right now. These would be your religious fundamentalists who physically believe in an afterlife. I'm willing to entertain an afterlife. I actually live as though there were an afterlife, and I figure like, well, it's more likely than not that there's a reason I'm here than that it's totally, totally, totally fucking random. And in fact, like, not only just random, but insanely improbable. It's probably more likely, once possibility exists of intelligence, that intelligence would at some point create superintelligence, and superintelligence would create versions of itself like us. I mean, that's whether it's God or the Matrix. That's more mathematically likely in my mind. I don't have the proof for it just handy just yet. I'm working on it. That's much more likely than we're like two carbon atoms that bump together in the right way, and now we're having this conversation. Okay, let's think about that one. Anyway, we all know that everything's bullshit, right? So none of this really matters. What matters is how we play our acts on the stage. What matters is, what if it is in fact more likely that we will be answerable at some point? What if some of this did make a difference? Doesn't really cost you that much to make a difference. So make a difference. Do something you care about. Be happy. Why live your life being a victim? Why live your life being sad? Why live your life being like, fuck the man, to the point where like the man hates me because of the color of my skin? You know, if I listen to leftists, everybody hates me for the color of my skin. I've been living as a minority in my hometown my whole life. I've participated in many of the groups that would make me part of some sort of diversity. Like, but I don't let that really affect me, do I? right? I live my life, but I occasionally get out and rant on people who would drag the shit that has been going on for thousands of years back to the fore just when we were at the point of saying, okay, constitutionally we accept that all people, regardless of how they look, what kind of chromosomes they have rights to equal protection of the law. If they're born here, they get to stay here, they get all these fantastic rights. Pretty good, right? Everybody's eating. People, we're now arguing about whether the government, whether everybody else should help pay for our health care. That's how advanced we are. That's what we're worried about, like whether other people will be required to help take care of us. That's pretty far advanced in the evolutionary chain. And people are hating each other and wanting to kill each other over this fine semantic distinction of how we should be helping each other. So we know that this is all bullshit. We know that this is a stage. So be the way you want to be. Live in this fantastic life you have. And don't be hating on people, right? So let's start breaking down what you can be on the stage. Let's say, okay, over here, I have don't question, just do, morality, progress, peace, judgment, precedent, and science. All right? So that's the what I call the guardians. The moral strictures, there actually is a purpose, or even if we can't divine the purpose, let's live as though there were a purpose. Let's do the right thing, and let's get everybody to get in line and do the right thing. We'll have agreement, we'll have consensus, we'll have science, we'll have morality, we'll have rationality, we'll have enlightenment, Western enlightenment, not, say, Hindu enlightenment. We'll have post-enlightenment thinking, so that we can sort of temper God and science equally and basically live as best we can determine. So that's over here. What do we have over here? We have Shiva, god of Shiva. I am the destroyer of worlds. We have Maverick, rebel, fuck it, experiment, hypothesis, and radicalism. Right? This is the side that says, you know what? We do have amazing gifts and we have talents and you guys are wrong. Since we clearly have almost infinite thinking capability compared to the reality of the world around us, within one generation we unleashed the atom. You can say the Greeks started that shit. Okay, 2,000 years, big fucking whoop. At some point we split the atom and we blew up the atom bomb and we created infinite sources of energy. Oops. And we're still arguing about oil and we have nuclear, but nuclear is so dangerous. Well, why don't you ship that shit up to outer space? Or why don't you use the sun, which is already actually a perfect fission fusion reactor, and just use solar energy? There's a lot of problems here. So why don't we just burn the whole fucking thing down and start over? Maybe it'd be better if we all just lived in the woods and ran around with daggers and killed deer and took care of each other and had campfires and songs at night. That's kind of, I'm a back to the lander, so that's kind of me. But also scientists can either be the scientists who want to keep the status quo or the ones who want to design new experiments and discover the mysteries of the universe. I'm an engineer, so I'm halfway between these worlds. I certainly want to know everything that's been known. And I'm like, well, can't we push the boundaries of what we know? So then down in the middle, you've got people who are reasonable, phlegmatic, consensus, logic, politics, compassion, compromise. Where you have to be careful is when you get into something like do-gooders. Right? Where do do-gooders go? They're kind of, they want to be all touchy-feely, but they kind of want to break away from warriorness and say, let's just do something different. Let's go thrust our do-good attitudes on these people. And in some case, they're like, well, we all should be doing good, and so it's kind of the guardians who are really the do-gooders, right? All right, that's a fun one, but let's talk about that shit. Where's my full graph? All right. So here's my big map. All right. So we have guardians, which lead to Puritans, right? Guardian to me is someone who's just preserve the status quo, preserve the institutions, let's all get along, and let's do it with the mechanisms of law and order. Law being that which we can agree to that is, within the pale of moral proscribed behavior. And, post-Enlightenment, post-constitutional people like me believe that, in fact, if you go with the constitutional framework, you can actually have morally proscribed behavior and personal liberty to an extent that most people find pretty damn agreeable. The only people who don't find it agreeable are the people who are on the bleeding edge of social change. That's been the hippies, that's been the polyamorists, that's been the transgenderists, that's been the NAMBLAs, of the world. Every one of these movements is at the leading edge of social change. So if it goes leading edge of social change, then social center, then politics, and then the Supreme Court, that all kind of works. So your particular kind of transgression from agreed upon morality will be available to you in a generation in this country. You might not get to experience the fruits of it unless you're hiding out in a bar on Christopher Street. But your children will, or your adopted children will. I'm sorry, but that's the progress of this country. That turns out to be an order of magnitude better than European history and several orders of magnitude better than the history of Islam. And possibly European history advancements were equal to advancements in early China or Mesopotamia. In Mesopotamia, they're still arguing about which gods were right for which taxation systems. That was 3,000, 4,000 years ago. When the Jews started writing shit down, or oral history, and saying, well, yeah, we're wandering in the desert, don't eat fish, right? At some point, a certain culture broke away from ancient Israel and ancient Islam and ancient China and more modern European common law. And that culture is American culture. So that's the only thing I know. So I'm going to talk about my experience in American culture in this very free place. So you got guardians. They're the ones who want to protect the order. They are largely, your more staid lawyers, your more successful congresspeople, your less business-oriented politicians, your cops, your firemen, to some extent, according to the types theory where guardian comes from. A lot of the people who are in jobs that I just mentioned are another thing called artisans, which they're not so into like guarding the rule of law so much, but they're very good at following the rule of law and going like, these are my parameters, good. I can hit a three-pointer from here, good, right? Steph Curry's an artisan, he's not a guardian. He doesn't really care so much about the rules, but given the rules, he's going to be the best. So there are a lot of politicians, a lot of trial lawyers who are in this mold, but they're not so much into like keep the rules a certain way. They're like, let's just advance. Let's just kick ass at what we do. Let's be awesome, personally and socially. And they largely are a little bit more socially libertarian, but totally happy to play within the rules and have the best possible experience that they can, right? And then you get into politics. So a political person is someone who might believe in guardianship and might believe in excelling, in this sort of artisan way. And then you have the conformist. I'm a conformist. That word used to shock me because I grew up in Berkeley, which is the center of radicalism. But I am in fact a conformist. I actually consider myself a millennial now because I'm online so much. I know how millennials think. I see what they're going through, and I'm like, sure, I'm a millennial, right? Like, of course that's ridiculous, but what I'm saying is that conformists want to go. I'm the youngest child. I want to go where everybody's going, and I want everybody to get along. And I want to conform to a certain extent as long as I've got my personal expression, my personal freedom, as allowed within society. Growing up in Berkeley, I was told, no, you should actually push the envelope a little more. So that's another area that I'm calling rebel. So rebel says, no, I might be into sophistry, right? I might believe that I am the only thing that can determine that I exist. Everything else is the doors of perception. Even conversations, the other people might be drones of my consciousness, or of my magical powers, or of my God-ordained existence. So a sophist says, I'm the only one who can really verify my own experience, and even that's a little suspect. But sophistry can lead to, well, fuck it, right? And fuck it can lead to rebel. And rebel's a little different than another player, which is warrior. A warrior probably has a bit of rebel and a bit of fuck it, and it's better to destroy than to just go on with this shit because this shit ain't working. But a warrior is more of a guardian. Let's protect the peace. Let's protect the people I love. Let's go fight the good fight. Everybody, the fucked up thing, and when you realize this, you'll realize that Bill Maher was originally right. Everybody who's a warrior is a hero, at least to their own sophistic selves. They might even be heroes to their families. They might even be heroes to their countries. So anyone who's doing the warrior thing and doing the good fight and is agreed upon that they're a warrior by their side is potentially being heroic. Right, so how do you know that your side is actually the right side? Well, philosophy, science, talking to people, cultural exchange. These can help, but ultimately you have to decide, and you have to decide at what point that your mind was here for a reason to help the other apparent minds around you. Whether you believe it was God that told you to do that, because clearly we're here, or whether you told you that your basic innate sense that if you weren't abused too badly, if you were brought up in a normal kind of way, you probably have an innate sense that you care about other people and that you feel that other people are actually other instances of you as the I believe it's I forget which kind of Buddhist it is. It might be from Thailand. The national greeting among these Buddhists is, I am another you. Like, that's how they say hello. Like in China, the traditional way of saying hello is, are you hungry? Like I care about you, right? I am another you. So if you believe that you're not a pure sophist and you're like, hey, this is another, even if maybe I am a sophist and I created you, but I care about the other players in my game. Maybe I made you to be an adversary, so maybe it's fun to go kick your ass. Okay, fine. But, so those are rebel and warrior, okay? Rebel being more destroyer of worlds, warrior being destroyer of things that this group of people think is antagonistic to our way of life. And our way of life is better. And since we're all rhinoceros beetles at heart, we're all fighting to, if you don't know what this is, I do this in all my videos. You go look up rhinoceros beetles, and this is what they fucking do all day. They pinch each other and then fight, right? And I'm like, well, there's this reptilian portion of our brain that does that. So clearly we're all rhinoceros beetles, except we're also these amazing thinking machines and these amazing spiritual dreaming machines and these amazing lovers. So something's going on. So anyway, whether it's God that told you that was what was happening, or whether it was science that told you that was happening, there's one more role I want to talk about, and that's innovator. So innovators are like rebel, but an innovator cares. An innovator cares and wants to share his rebellion. So then we have another one that's incidental to innovator and rebel called Maverick. So Maverick, it was originally John McCain, who's probably the least maverick of all politicians. He's probably the biggest globalist and the biggest liar there is, which doesn't make you really a maverick. It just kind of makes you an asshole. But you know, he did his service, and he went through some awful shit, and for that we all salute him. And now it's time to quit the Senate and just realize that your brain got damaged, and you're now just a terrible politician. We really respect what you did, and the shit that you had to go through, and maybe just retire and have someone take care of you. So, because now we come back around to politician. A politician is someone who takes Maverick and Destroyer and Guardian and everything and then lies about it. So these are our rules. You know, so if you're like, oh, I'm going to be a dancer and I'm going to be an artist. Well, in some ways you're kind of being a Maverick. In some ways you're kind of being a Guardian. You're probably learning other forms of dance that followed, preceded you. And you're probably bonding with other people, which means you believe in, you know, a certain level of sociological hanging out. You know, and you might be a Maverick, right? So a Maverick is technically someone who stands out from the herd. What do I call it? Herd. It's a horse, right? Like the Maverick is the one that kind of busts out and says, "Hey, everybody, fuck you. I'm going over this way. Hey, everybody, did you see I'm going this way? Hey, fuck you. I'm all going this way." Like that's the difference between Maverick and Rebel. A Rebel's like, "Fuck you, and I'm going to start shooting at you if you keep following me," right? The Maverick says, "Hey guys, over this way," right? So, and that's a great role. That's a great role. I forget whether it was my two favorites. I just quote them both all the time, right? Lenny Bruce or Frank Zappa, who, you know, basically is like the reason that we have progress is because of deviance. Right? If you've never had deviance, you would never have progress. It would just be the fucking same. Like, so if you believe that progress has happened, it's because of deviance. So don't be so hard on deviance. So the Maverick says, let's do a little bit of deviance. Let's just go this way. Come on, this will be cool. The Rebel says, fuck you, I'm going this way. The Rebel is genetically designed to happen so that society can move forward. You need some rebels. So if someone's being rebellious, don't hate on them. They're doing their play. They're doing their job. They're doing their role in the stage that we're all on. If someone's a Maverick, they're doing what they think. Of course, you know, John McCain thinks he's doing the right thing. God bless him, right? He should be doing that. I don't like his politics, but he should be doing what he wants to do. That's the beauty of American society. You do whatever the fuck you want to do. Let me talk all day, right? Anyway, let's do that one more time. Guardian, Puritan, politic, Maverick, Rebel, Innovator, Destroyer, Warrior, Conformist. So these are some roles that you can play, and these are roles that we do play. And in today's politics, what we see, you know, I'm just going to come back to this one more time. Where did I put Hillary? Yeah, there's Hillary. All right, so I'm just going to come back to this one more time. Why do I hate Hillary Clinton? She wants you to rebel to her conformism, right? She's the ultimate crook, the ultimate insider, the ultimate maker of deals of 20% of U.S. Uranium stock to Russia, and then, you know, hires her own technology consultants to say the Russians did it, and then turn her loss of election because she was so corrupt and so inept at connecting to people. She filled basketball stadiums, and Trump and Sanders were out there building real stadiums. She was filling like 50 people, not even filling, basketball courts. Right? So then she turns that around with her cozy deal with the Russians, and then does what Saul Alinsky says, which is blame your opponent for the sin that you're committing. She blames Trump, and so we get the first 100 days are nothing but the corrupt media, corrupt fake media. I watched every single Spicer press conference. Spicer would be talking about this and that and the other thing, and there were potential questions on this, that, and the other thing. And every day, the press were like, what did the president mean when he tweeted wiretapping, the time that he did it, without quotation marks. I'm not fucking kidding. This is what ABC, NBC, New York Times, like this is what they're sitting in the front row. They have the best seats. They've always had the seats since like Truman, right? When he invited them in, like put them out on the steps and said, "Hey, why don't you guys come inside and let's fucking cold out here. Let's talk inside," right? Ever since then, there's been a press corps, and now they think it's like they're right to have it. It doesn't say anything about the Constitution about having a fucking press corps. It says you have the right to freedom of the press, which means you can skulk around wherever you want and talk to whoever the fuck you want to, but you don't have the right to demand that because someone doesn't give you a press conference at 10 o'clock and wants to have a meeting in the closet down the hall, you know, with 3 of your number, and then they can share it with the rest, that suddenly that's an abrogation of the Constitution? Like, that's literally what they spend all their time doing, and you're telling me it's not fake news. They're fucking talking about bombing innocent people in Syria, and they're like, well, what about that? You're like, they're not even asking questions on point. When they're fucking up, when Spicer's fucking up, they aren't nailing him. And they're nailing him on something they felt like nailing him from yesterday. Like, anyway, that's politics. And that's conformism, and that's guardianism and rebellion and maverick and innovator and destroyer and warrior. And these are all fun words. All right, part 2. Let's talk about hypocrisy. We've been talking about roles, and we've been talking about the hypocrisy of Hillary Clinton. You know, the whole, like, I am for change, I am a rebel, I am a maverick, I am for social justice, I hate everybody who doesn't think like me. I am not for gun control, but I just want to control these guns. Just bullets. I'm not for gun control, I'm just for bullet control. Like, that's fine to say we don't want guns in cities. This has been done since the Wild Wild West. The mayor of a city has the right to say you can check your fucking guns of the city because there's too many people drinking in bars around here and carrying around too much fucking gold. We have a sheriff and he'll carry the guns, thank you very much. It's another thing to say we're limiting the type and size of guns you can carry. Right? That's called gun control. And then Hillary Clinton goes up, supports all this shit, and says, I am not for gun control. I'm not going to take your guns away. Anybody who believes that is a stupid redneck. Right? In which all the rednecks go, you know, lady, country don't mean stupid. Right? We read what you signed. You know, we also have the internet. Right? We also talk to people. We also graduated school. You know? And probably not in a fucked up inner city you know, school. Like I went to Berkeley High, and you know, it was a little bit of privilege to figure out which classes to go to, because 1 in 10 of my teachers were any good. So, but let's talk about hypocrisy. Let's say you don't like Ann Coulter. Well, then stop supporting totally open borders. Stop supporting welfare for illegal immigrants. Stop releasing criminals who happen to be immigrants because their immigration status doesn't agree with what you think of the federal government's policies on immigration have to do, even though the federal government is clearly given top jurisdiction in the Constitution over immigration. You ask Latinos in LA who are citizens how they feel about illegal immigrants. You ask Cesar Chavez, I won't repeat the word that he said, but you ask Cesar Chavez what he thought about illegal immigrants. You stop, if you hate Ann Coulter, stop baiting the people who are struggling against immigration. Inner city blacks, first generation immigrants, people on the bottom rungs of our society are all scrabbling with people who just walked across the fucking border. You know, people who are not going to contribute anything but be criminals. Now, there are plenty of people who just walk across the border and just want good jobs and want to be good citizens. And, you know, maybe after 20 years, maybe we should let them in. Maybe Ann Coulter's a bitch. On the other hand, maybe she's got some valid points. And maybe if you actually listen to her entire speech or read an entire book, as I have done, and you find, oh, what she's really talking about is people who are lawbreakers, who are pissing off those, including poor people, who are like, wait a minute, I got in line for this country. I took my fucking citizenship test. My dad, you know, my mom, my grandma, whatever, right? These are people who stood in line. and they don't like illegal immigration. You know, um, so maybe instead of blaming the messenger, which is Ann Coulter, who is a very fiery, uh, antagonistic person, maybe if you didn't say that anybody who disagreed slightly with illegal immigration was a racist, maybe there wouldn't need to be people like Donald Trump and Ann Coulter who get up and say, you know what, your little racist term isn't going to work because I'm just going to be an asshole. But my point's going to get across, which is that there are decent people in this country who would like to just have some checks and balances on immigration. Yes, there are plenty of places that need people to do work. Yes, there are plenty of communities that would welcome new people to their communities. But we would like a little bit of regulation on it. And we really resent it when some people get to call us racists. So some of us will buy Ann Coulter's book and say, hey, here's $29 or whatever the fuck a hardcover costs, so that you can keep fighting the fight, because these people who I thought were leftists are now criticizing. Remember the leftists? Remember I said at the beginning? Think freely, love freely. They don't think freely because as soon as you get up and say, hey, there's actually some laws here and there's some people already been waiting in line, and, there's people being admitted from England and from China and from Taiwan, but, there are Christians who are being persecuted in Muslim majority countries who aren't getting in. There are people who are being let in as, under special circumstances, who come from countries where they don't even have functioning airports or functioning passport systems. We don't know who these people are. These are the same countries that run around and preach death to America. I'm not being an Islamophobe, but I'm telling you that the countries that Donald Trump selected for the travel ban is not because they're Muslim. He didn't put Jakarta on the list. He didn't put, India on the list. He didn't put, right? So the countries that he put don't have functioning passport systems. That means Joe Schmo can walk up and be like, I am an ISIL fighter, but I'm going to pretend to be a 17-year-old named so-and-so, so-and-so, give me a passport. He waltzes into JFK, shows his, Somali passport, his Yemeni passport. Suddenly he's in. So someone who doesn't believe that is maybe the best way to actually represent for Muslims, for peace-loving, law-loving Muslims, is to allow all the extremist Muslims in and get everybody else a bad name? So, you don't like Ann Coulter? Don't denigrate the people who are like, hold on a second, can we have some law review here? Can we have some sensibility? Don't like Donald Trump? Then stop supporting things like NAFTA and TPP and the WTO, right? All my liberal friends went up to Seattle to protest the WTO, and now they all love TPP. You don't know what these are? Look these up on Wikipedia. These are major, major facts that you need to understand. NAFTA is what took all the jobs and put them to Mexico and put all the people in Mexico freaking out because it destroyed Mexican communities and sent a bunch of Mexicans northward. Right? George Bush is the one who just set the Middle East on fire and sent a bunch of, people in the Middle East trying to cruise their way up through Greece and Turkey and into the hinterland. Right? Trump's against NAFTA. Trump's against TPP. Clinton was for TPP. Clinton brought you NAFTA. Clinton brought you Walmart. Walmart single-handedly destroyed every mom and pop operation in this country. That's Hillary Clinton. She sat on the board. She was their number one lawyer. As soon as she was president, right? As soon as her husband was president, in comes NAFTA. Walmart takes off. Huh. Walmart's buying all their shit. Everything that you see in Walmart is made in China. Where did all those manufacturing jobs go? Oh, those were all Rust Belt, Midwestern Ohio, Minneapolis. Like all the great manufacturing towns in this country were making shit, and now it's all being made in China. Thank Hillary Clinton, right? So, hate Donald Trump? Stop voting for NAFTA and TPP. Um, don't like fossil fuels? Stop buying Prii. That's the official Latin plural for Prius. Um, Stop using air conditioners. Stop taking transcontinental flights. Uh, Stop buying shit from China. Right? China has the worst environmental record. They're burning coal without scrubbers, like we do in this country. We now have environmental regulations, and so you have to have silicon oxides. I forget what it's SO2 or SO3, but you have to have not sulfur dioxide, sulfur dioxide scrubbers to make it actually clean coal, and you have to dig from clean veins so that not so much sulfur. But the scrubbers are actually pretty good. A whole lot better than the ones in China. What's the one thing that scrubbed coal plants still produce? Carbon dioxide. We've got it so clean that all that's being produced is plant food. Carbon dioxide is plant food, right? How can we stop that? Let's tax it. Deploy Al Gore, have him produce a great movie, tell everybody that the global ice age is over and we're now going to talk about global warming because of carbon dioxide effect. Cap and trade that shit. Now, buy the sky and sell the sky. Right, REM, thank you very much. They've taxed carbon dioxide. This is the major component of life on Earth in the atmosphere after oxygen. First is nitrogen, totally fucking inert. Helps us fly and move shit in and out of our lungs. Inert and doesn't blow up all the time. Oxygen helps all oxygenation, therefore all metabolism on the planet. Also, too much concentration, everything fucking burns up and blows up. You need a bunch of nitrogen to make that stop happening. Carbon dioxide's next. Well, water vapor. Right? So water vapor counts. But if you get totally dry air, next thing is after water vapor would be carbon dioxide. Plants have figured out this is how you move the carbon around the planet. They need carbon to build stems and leaves. We need carbon to build cells. So life is based on carbon. So you produce too much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, you're making plant food. We got to tax that shit. So when we're taxing the air, that's what neoliberalism has brought you. So don't like Donald Trump? Don't bring in people that want to tax everybody who wants to use a little energy and burn some shit what they found in the ground and comply with basic regulations as to don't be such a dickhead polluter. Now we're going to tax you even if you burn propane, fucking methane, natural gas, light shit what bubbles out of the ground anyway. If you dig a hole and make it come out a little faster and burn it, you're still liable. Al Gore is making millions of dollars off his investments and his lobbying and his work for carbon tax and trade, cap and trade taxes. Okay. That's what Al Gore's new movie is about. Probably. I haven't seen it yet. I saw the trailer and I was like, really? He said because there's global warming, there's ocean rising, which means that's why the New York subway system flooded, with the hurricane. He's like, no, that's because that was a 100-year storm. That happens from time to time. We've developed more and more and more and more and pumped out lower and lower and dug the subways lower and lower. And then a 100-year storm comes along and it's fucked. Most of the coastal problems are because the federal government started providing insurance and FEMA aid to coastal developments. And under both Bushes, a whole lot of swamp draining and development of swampland and tidal marshes. These things, because the federal government either insured them up front through providing federal insurance when no other reasonable insurance company would insure your place on the wrong side of Galveston, right? Out on the fucking reef, or out on Fire Island or something where it's like, this is a sandbar that's only been here for 50 years. You really want to build a house here? So the federal government started insuring all that stuff and taking care of the problems when the 50-year, 25-year, 100-year storms would hit. So now it looks like, hurricanes are at an all-time low and Al Gore's right. No, it means that we have some logistical problems. All right, that was global warming, and there's more to be said about that. But anyway, stop buying shit from China. Use your bicycle. Be more of a hippie. Everything doesn't have to be new, right? You don't need air conditioning. Hate corporations? Right? Everybody on the left hate corporations? Stop shopping at places that have more than 100 employees. You will be supporting zero corporations. Support co-ops. Start a co-op. Start co-housing. Stop going to multiplexes. Start going to music jams. Have parties, barbecues. Skip Disneyland and go camping with your family, or better yet, a couple of families. You don't need any money to have fun. But every time you say, oh, well, this corporation will help me have more fun, you're supporting that corporation. Guess what corporations are? Corporations are legal entities for dealing with what happens when you get so popular that everybody loves your shit so much that you need this legal structure to protect the original investors from personal loss when they fuck up. Now, you want real change? Why don't you make it so that corporations don't legally protect the corporate holders from personal liability? This is a tiny legal change. It would make all the difference that you're clamoring about. But instead, you're going to say that every large organization of people is either capitalism sucks or corporations are out trying to ream us in the ass. If you hate them so much, stop shopping for them. There's farmers markets. There's growing food in your own yard. There's riding a bicycle. There's, taking camping trips with your preferred friends and family. Go up to Clear Lake. It's fucking $14 a day or whatever. Like, just... Hate the Christian right? Then stop your pro-eugenics support of on-demand, at Walmart, abortion for people who are poor. Look it up. Margaret Sanger was a white eugenicist who paired with a black minister to preach the gospel of abortion because she wanted to slow the growth of blacks. Look that shit up. There is still a tinge of it in people who support abortion today. A lot of people do it on freedom grounds, and in this advancement of technology and liberty, in some extent they're right. What I'm questioning is the on-demandness of it and the subsidizing for the poor for it, on the patronizing notion that if someone can't afford a day off work to abort her child, she needs to be handed a check. Fucking ridiculous. Now, do you want to live in a society where a man or group of men get to tell you you don't get to do what you want, which is take care of your body as women have done for thousands of years with various, roots and things they can do to cause miscarriages in the first trimester? I'll probably side with you that very early on, it's probably your body. At some point, it ceases to be your body, and it's a much heavier decision, which I don't really want to get involved with, but a lot of people do. And if you want to stop pissing these people off and making them come after you, stop demanding the on-demand, subsidized, federally paid for, federally promoted, no waiting time enhanced, no actual doctor's certificate required. Like, stop going for this all-access, on-demand, immediately, right now, we want it all. Like, you're going against people who are like, this hurts my mind and this hurts my religious convictions. Hate the Christian right? Stop giving them fodder, like telling your children that they should do hormone replacement or delay therapy because every once in a while they want to wear tutus. Guess what? Every boy wants to wear a tutu. If someone has a different feeling about their sexuality or their expression or their clothing, Let them do it. I'm not such a Puritan that I can't say, hey, you want to show up in a tutu? You want to be called she? You know? You want to bend over to take it instead of give it? That after you're a consenting adult and after puberty and all that stuff? Fine. As a child, if you want to pretend, you know, children aren't really supposed to have sex, right? If you want to pretend that your sexuality is formed when you're either prepubescent or pre-age of consent, that's fine. But don't have parents in on helping people to decide sexuality before their sexuality is legally formed. Don't be giving people hormone replacement therapies. Right? As an adult, you can cut your body up any way you want. Fine, I don't care. Don't do this to children. Don't impose your pretend social liberalism on children who are still figuring out the world. So as long as you keep doing shit like that, you're going to piss off people who are going to give support to people who are going, excuse us, we're the only ones over here who are supporting traditionalist values in this country. And people will be like, oh, maybe those guys maybe these guys kind of make some sense. Maybe all this social liberalism is going a little too far when we are sexualizing children. Maybe a little bit of traditionalism would be a good thing. Maybe it's traditional Judaism. Maybe it's traditional Islam. Maybe it's traditional Christianity. If you don't like any of the fundamentalists, stop pushing the envelope so hard. Anyway, I think that's it for hypocrisy. Oh, hate Ann Coulter and Bill O'Reilly and all that kind of stuff? Then stop denying true teaching of civics class in high schools and teach the Constitution. Hate fake news? Then learn how to read between the lines and stop taking everything you see in the Washington Post and Washington Times, CNN, MSNBC especially. Stop taking any of that shit seriously. I'm all in favor of a French-style Le Monde, like whatever, like this is the paper of this party. Fuck yeah. I love Breitbart. Of course they're opinionated. Of course they're full of shit. So is the New York Times. So is the Washington Post. I'm an intelligent person. I was taught critical thinking, and you can teach your children critical thinking too, and you can teach your children the Constitution too. You know, there's always C-SPAN. You can actually watch this stuff for yourself and see what our representatives are talking and listen to the nonsense they you know, and actually be involved. And you could actually say, you know what, when it's 3,000 miles away in Washington, I don't even know what these assholes are saying. Maybe I'd prefer to be able to go down to my city council. Then maybe you should support constitutional law that keeps federalism at its tiniest and states at their tiniest and local governments as the most important. Anyway, that's it.